what you sound. Please cooperate and do your part in keeping this theater quiet so everyone, including you, can enjoy.
Oh, look at this tight shot, man. Look at this close-up of us. Ooh, we get the, anguish on our face even closer. I know. Even closer. Welcome into the Losers Lounge, guys. What a tough one. I've been a Nuggets fan my entire life, born into this, gone through all of these ups and downs. This is up there. It's up there, man.
Yeah,
it's up there for me. It's up there with me, or for me, on the inbounds passes, both inbounds passes against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. You go back to Game 82, you go to the Nurkic game, the Have a Nice Summer game, you go to all of that. This is right up there with it, because there's a sense when you're a Nuggets fan of this inevitability. No matter how high you climb, you're going to go up against the stacked. It's always the Lakers, the stacked Lakers team, the team that has, the ability to sort of do things differently. And no matter how impressive and inspiring you can be, and this is for 47 minutes and 58 seconds, this was just, it's why we like sports.
Right.
It's David versus Goliath. It's the team that has had no advantages handed to them in any capacity, going up against the team with every advantage and doing it all 2 seconds short. And it's just an absolutely brutal. It's tough to. This was an interesting game. We're going to talk. Unlike the last game where I felt like we didn't have a lot, there's a lot to kind of get to tonight. But the moment and the feeling that you have in this moment right here is just one of nihilism. It's just like we talk ourselves into. We talk ourselves into so many different things about sports and just how much we want it this way. We'd rather lose the hard way than do it, any other way. This is the Denver way. You have to do it. We just watched a great game. For 48 minutes, the Nuggets were getting shit on Twitter, shit on by the broadcast team, shit on by at halftime. Just nothing but getting shit on. And you're thinking, aren't they in the Western Conference Finals? Aren't they battling with a team that has arguably the greatest player of all time and another top 5 player? Aren't they doing this? And it's just shit. And finally you take a lead. Finally you get a stop. You do everything right. You get to 2 seconds left. And you almost pull it off. It's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. I've been here so many times. I just feel like it's always, and there's a reason it's always in the back of your head and I know one day it won't be. I hope one day it won't be. But at this very moment, it feels that way.
It's not about fairness. We
of
want
course,
it to be. And
Reserve got nothing to do with it.
I have to say I saw it in your faces, and I heard it in the bar. In a way I haven't yet, new around here. That gut punch, man, it feels like inevitability.
And I'm not trying you're going to find this to be very contentious, and I don't mean it to be. But there's also this other part of it of just, remember we had a Laker fan in the building the other day, and I said just that being here is tough for me. It's like it really gets to me, and it's the same a little bit with just the LeBron appreciation. Sure. Again, you can't help what you appreciate, you can't help what you like, but it's that thing where it's just there's just that feeling of, yeah, but it's the F that. You know what I mean? It's being 90, it's being 48, 47, 58 in, but not all the way. It just that little bit feels like there's always going to be that 2 seconds door open, and it's tough, man.
You know what though? The more of these moments that I live through, the more that door closes. And I start to see it, man. And it is about. It's not about fairness, but it feels like it should be now.
Right.
These are fans that have endured it.
This is where sports are so brutal. Awesome, but also so dumb because we want to be would deserve or better team. Whatever. It's like, guys, whoever's better at basketball wins the game. And tonight, the Lakers were 2 points better than the Nuggets.
Before they're getting ready for that final shot, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm going through all of this stuff okay, I guess this is where they say Nug life creeps in, but no, I think this time they got it. And that shot of all shots falls. There are some optimistic takeaways. I don't want to go full, but I'm not going to.
We have to. We have to start where we start.
But I'm not going to strip you from this, man, because this is what you're feeling, and
I don't want to wallow in it. This is the thing about we've talked about Nug life, and we've kind of own that term, but we want to change it. We want to make it different. And part of it is, guys, when that pain comes, and this is painful. I mean, I'm telling you, like, that moment was, again, like most fan bases, actually I shouldn't say most fan bases do know it. This is what DNVR is all about, is there's very few people that get all of the wealth in life, and I'm talking about literally of the wealth, but also the sports wealth. There's it's the exact same dynamic. And it's funny because if you go across every experience or every God, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it could be schools, it could be industries, anything where people come together as a group. There's always the disparity of resources. There's always the haves and the have-nots, no matter how you try to divide these things up. And so the Nuggets are one of those have-not teams, and we're trying to say yes. It's all of that, and then when you have those moments like that, it's just it's like being kicked in the balls by the richest person on earth, the most powerful person. It's just like a sacrifice at an altar.
And the brutal one right now is you do just kind of have to tip your hat to AD. I mean, that wasn't
big shot. It
wasn't refs moving anyone over the finish line. Those are world-beating shots, and plenty to talk about. Jokic was a world beater himself down the stretch. That was a winning.
Should we move on to some? Can we kind of?
Let's do it, man.
Pick our ass off the pavement.
Tell me,
I mean,
brother.
this is a pick your ass off the pavement moment.
Yeah.
This is like bleeding in the street. Knock the F out. Got to pick off the pavement. But it was an interesting game, and I guess we can start at the very end here, which is, I said it as soon as they did it. I don't like Mason Plumlee in these minutes because Michael Malone, in my opinion, Mason Plumlee is not a smart defender. It's funny. He's a smart person. I think he's a really smart and interesting guy. He went to Duke. He makes really bad mistakes a lot, and he makes up with those for effort. Well, there's 2 seconds left. Everybody is going to give effort for 2 seconds. You're going to have Jokic in the game to deny the ball. Okay, so what is Plumlee in the game for? To deny, I'm guessing, an Anthony Davis lob. I don't know. Put some more mobility on there. Put somebody that's maybe less mistake prone. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Mason Plumlee fouls 3 times the third most of anybody in the playoffs. I'm surprised he didn't pick up a foul in this play. But when he goes, and clearly it will switch everything, and he runs into LeBron, there's 10 feet of space between Anthony Davis and LeBron James. There was no screen. There was no need for a switch. And if you think just calling out switch is going to make any type of impact in that moment, I'm sorry, you're wrong. I don't like to put blame on any one person because it's a 48-minute game, tons of things happen. That was on Michael Malone and on Mason Plumlee because that was a mistake that was so predictable I predicted it. And second of all, it was one of those ones that just is inexcusable. No rational NBA player would make that decision in that moment.
Can I put you on the spot and say maybe who would you have put out there instead?
I mean, I'd have to look again. In my opinion, I don't know that you need to have a center on there. Like you're going okay, it's AD. We need to have size on there. Why? You need to have guys that aren't going to make mistakes because there's 2 seconds. Right. There's only 2 seconds to go there. So, again, this stuff is easy to say in hindsight, but as soon as he checked in, I was sitting there thinking, I don't love Plumlee with 2 seconds. With 2 seconds there because everyone's going to play hard in those moments. So it's tough. And then, again, blame Malone a little bit for that, but also it's Mason Plumlee. He's a veteran.
Right.
He's the second most senior member on this team. He knows better than that.
I'm with you. Yeah, I don't want to hammer him too hard, but it looked like it was his mistake.
Lost in a lot of this was just how fantastic the Nuggets were and how resilient they were coming back in this game. There's no moral victories. There's no orange slices, none of that. But if you look at this series, I think the Lakers are far and away the best team remaining in the playoffs. In my opinion.
I think the best team in
basketball. The Heat and the Celtics are like the Nuggets. They're a really good team. They don't have the top-end talent. Even Jimmy Butler, who I think is fantastic, he's a top-end defensive talent. He's a big shot maker. I think he's clutch. I think he's got all those things. But they don't have the top-end talent of either an Anthony Davis or a LeBron James.
Right.
The Nuggets have the closest thing to that in Nikola Jokic.
Agreed.
And at moments in that fourth quarter, I thought it's funny because the Lakers, the Lakers have representation in the media everywhere.
Oh, have you noticed?
They do, yes. They're very well represented in the media.
Denver
does not. Denver doesn't have any. In fact, even a lot of the people that are Denver voices are not Denver advocates. They don't have a Denver backing or this or that, right? When you're watching this team come back from that, to me, I watch them and I go, we're listening to the broadcast talk about how bad the Nuggets are and how awesome this team is. Nuggets have a lead.
I know.
The Nuggets are never quitting. They're never going away. I'm saying I understand they don't have some of the bells and whistles of some of these other teams. I'm not dunking on you, not doing some of this other stuff, but damn it, that team has things that are interesting about them. They're resilient. It's one of the most resilient teams I've ever seen in an NBA level.
And it's very strange, this decision to treat them with kid gloves.
Right.
When one could just make the decision to appreciate them as somehow being both.
Yeah.
Both the young team with a future and the team that right now gave the Lakers a run for their money. That was a winning effort. That was a huge comeback effort. This is the team that went 3-1 in consecutive rounds. So, yeah, I get that they're down 2-0. I get the Lakers are the favorites. But it's weird that the Nuggets are still facing that level of disrespect.
They've got to win.
They do.
4 out of 5. It's an incredibly uphill battle, and they were so close tonight. This series, if it goes 1-1, I feel like everybody kind of steps back a little bit. And look, we think the Lakers are better than Nuggets. They're not saying this, but I do feel like you step back. 0-2 is tough. Denver's been 1-1 in both of their series.
Right.
But at the same time, Dwight Howard has the large. Watching Dwight Howard tonight and watching him in Game 1, it reminded me of the DeMarcus Cousins Golden State Warriors game. Do you remember this game?
I do.
Do you remember this game where he was doing this? And it's like, you're the second page of the scouting report. You're not on the first page. You're not the first guy. You're not the second guy. You're not the third guy. You're not part of the who to close out on. You're the second page guy. And credit Dwight Howard. He was fantastic in that first game doing his job. His job is to be on the court and to foul Jokic. And then I thought in that first game, for whatever reason, Jokic got the foul calls for it. Tonight, I thought Jokic was so blatantly trying to just let everything go.
Yeah.
There was one play, and they never showed the replay. I wish they would have, where he got for kneeing Anthony Davis. And you could just see it, like him dying inside. But you could see him like regroup himself and say, hey, this is the mountain in front of me. It's the one I have to climb. Now, I thought the foul calls were nice tonight. I thought it was fair. Meaning I don't think there was anything like, one team got the advantage of it. Dwight Howard is the difference in the series. And in the first half, he coincided with them making a run. In the second half, I thought Jokic and the Nuggets in particular kicked his ass.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, is this something for the Nuggets to kind of hang their hat on? You would love them to hang their hat on 1-1,
sure,
and maybe they've solved it. But going forward, have they solved the piece of the Lakers that has actually caused them problems so far?
Solved, maybe not the word, but it's a very encouraging start because Dwight was in his own head the way he was tasked with getting Jokic in his own head. I mean, Jokic absolutely deflected and flipped that.
Yeah.
And he got a tech. He was begging for one. Asked for a second, to be honest. So, it can change game to game. But I actually do think if Jokic is going to take a deep breath and stay composed, then you let Dwight get ahead of himself and trip over his emotions.
Right.
Because I don't think he played with a clear head tonight, and I think it played a big part in the Nuggets, hanging in there. So, yeah, dude, I think there's something to be encouraged about with the way Dwight, he punked him Game 1. Whether or not the officiating was rough or whatever, but...
his job was to get under his skin,
and he
got under his skin,
and I thought
Jokic was gone.
So
Jokic did flip it tonight, I thought, in a lot of ways. And he goes for 30 points. He gets 9 assists, 6 rebounds. All of that is, that was a really, really heroic effort from Jokic, I thought, tonight. He plays 38.5 minutes, almost 39 minutes. Again, we want sports to kind of fit certain narratives, and there is this idea of, like, that heroic young team that just doesn't go away.
I know.
And they almost pulled that off tonight. Another guy that deserves a shout-out, Jokic was the king of the game, the DraftKings Sportsbook king of the game. Also tonight we're presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. We can pick Nuggets covered. I guess there's a thing right now. Does it look like you photoshopped muscles onto Jokic's chest? Like, doesn't his chest look like it's
a little trim,
a little trim,
a little broad?
Anthony Davis like squeezing the tits there. You see that? Like he's really got like a handful of breast. But that's a hell of a stat line. I mean, you look at that. It's funny. There's been. The Lakers machine is just so all in on this Anthony Davis best big in the league, and I think like if they get through the series, he's going to deserve the crown. You win, and doesn't matter that he happens to also have LeBron James on his team, but whatever. He has been fantastic in this series, absolutely fantastic. Jokic outplayed him for the first 47 minutes and 58 seconds. I really think that if he doesn't hit that shot, you look at this game and you go, look, I know Anthony Davis is incredible. I know he dominated large portions of this game, but Jokic was good throughout and great down the stretch, and he had him. To me, it was that close.
And good defensively. 11 straight points in the fourth quarter to close the game. That tip-in.
Oh, can we also talk about this is a team that has LeBron James and Anthony Davis, fantastic offense. Nuggets hold them to 105.
Yeah, and I think, look, if you're looking for cross your fingers, does this persist throughout the series? that Lakers crunch time offense was ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, they tightened up the way we've wondered if some of those players would.
Some of it was LeBron, and this is part of where when you kind of like count your blessings, you go, okay, LeBron's going to be fantastic in most of this series. He wasn't tonight. This was not a good LeBron game. This was a C- LeBron James second half. You got to win those because I don't think you're going to have too many of those.
Yeah. But maybe you can also alternatively look at that and say, look, he had to go through bodies. He had to go through stunts. He had to go through length. And there were not easy paths to the. Now, he didn't look great, but he had a tier 1 first half.
Yeah, he really did.
So maybe Denver, was onto something with that crunch time D. It's so brutal, man, because you want to come away with positive takeaways. But
PJ Dozier's another one. He really came in and changed the game.
Yeah.
I've been calling for him to get minutes for a while because I think he is what Malone thinks Torrey Craig is, right? He's a fantastic defender. He's very heady. He doesn't make mistakes, and he can handle the ball. He took one shot tonight. We kind of all thought, okay, that's the PJ shot we're afraid of because sometimes he can get a little thirsty, a little too aggressive.
Settled.
And then the other thing you can point to with him, and it sucks because 1 of 5 from the foul line, he goes 3 of 5. Denver probably ends up winning this one. 1 of 5 is tough. But at the same time, PJ Dozier's not a great shooter in general. Is he a better free throw shooter than that? I think. But I have a soft spot in my heart for asking guys that don't play regular minutes to come in a fourth quarter, play fantastic, and then beating them outside the head when they make a tiny mistake. Unless it's Mason Plumlee.
No, I mean, and look, this is such a young player that's never been in a moment like that. Like, it is literally true that you can point to those missed free throws as the difference, but it's a little unfair to, blame Dozier, who, by the way, those free throws were coming off of incredible stops on LeBron James and forcing the issue and drawing fouls. Now, it sucks he didn't hit him, and you have to. It's a results-based game, but to get on PJ would be – it's more of it was a missed opportunity from him to really swing this game.
It really was.
Another
pivot point in this game for me, I thought Michael Porter really gave the Nuggets a boost in this one. And I think the Nuggets are going to need Michael Porter. He had 15 points tonight, and points are hard to come by in this series. I mean, the Lakers are a great defense, and they have guys that can guard Denver's key guys. They don't have anybody that can guard Michael Porter. And tonight, I thought he was fantastic in that third quarter to fourth quarter stretch. The Nuggets made a great move. They were catching up and even tied the game. They didn't quite take the lead, but tied the game. 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Michael Porter blows a weak side back cut, and they score a bucket on it. They break the tie, and they go up 86-84. The Nuggets only scored 8 points in the next 7 minutes of the game. And it was on principle. Again, now Jokic down the stretch, the final 2, comes in, and he is incredible, and they end up getting all 7. I think Jokic alone scored 7 or 9 in a row or something like that down the stretch. But when you just talk about, I know you need defense. Living with mistakes, it's so easy to say. It's so much harder to do, and to do in practice. And I thought in that moment, the Nuggets are going to need Michael Porter going forward, and maybe he learns from this in game 2 and he's more focused, although I don't think so. I just think he's he just doesn't have it. He just loses. He falls asleep. But that was a moment where I looked at that and I thought the Nuggets climbed all the way back with him on the court, tied the game, makes one mistake, and he gets pulled.
He's out. And, he is going to make those mistakes. And there's
also
also
gave up a layup.
Right, right. But there's also times where he's connected, and it's does one mistake really add up to, hey, he deserves this? And, at a certain point, whether it's luck, circumstance, whatever the dynamic is, Michael Porter Jr. is out there for all of the big runs, man. Yeah. Maybe not all, but the lion's share of them. And he's a common denominator. I know he's not hitting all the shots, but at the end of the day, the defense approaches that offense differently. That offense looks differently when he's on the court.
We should let it be known that Harrison Wind is right now speaking with hopefully Nikola Jokic, Michael Malone, Jamal Murray. I'm guessing we're going to get. Eric Weedham is out today. Load management. He actually got benched.
He got benched.
He was really bad in that game 1.
He was.
I don't want to put it all on one person, but if I was, I would put it on D-Line Co.
I do want to say, though, Paul Millsap, who is going to get killed, he was the leading rebounder tonight, 8 rebounds, 3 offensive rebounds.
He had some big rebounds, some big defensive plays.
Some big defensive plays. So I didn't think he was horrible. But generally speaking, I agree with your MPJ take.
Jamal Murray was great, too, and that block that he had at the end, the block shot.
That's a winning play.
It's a winning play, and this is just how close the basketball gods are such dicks, man. Because he had that. If that ball was just 2 inches closer to him, he probably catches it and saves it, game over. Instead, it's not, and the rest is history. But
it's a winning. It's brutal because they lost the game, but you're looking at Jokic and Jamal, who made the winning plays down the stretch. They did what they had to do.
Jeremy Grant was found himself in foul trouble tonight early, and it took him out of the game. He only gets 24.5 minutes. Doesn't really have a stat line that jumps out, but I thought he made a couple plays down the stretch that were, again, you talk about LeBron having his impact. It's so funny because his impact on the series is going to be, does LeBron wear down the way Kawhi did?
100%.
Can you extend the series long enough that you can hope that LeBron, who's my age, I'm worn down, we want to see, does he get worn down as it goes? And Jeremy Grant's a big part of that.
I think Jeremy Grant's been great. LeBron's going to get his. Game 1, for a lot of reasons, was ugly, but I thought it was a really good effort from him tonight. 6
turnovers from LeBron. They got
absolutely.
They got some of the turnovers they need. Both teams were really sloppy, especially in that first half. I thought the first quarter was just a really sloppy one.
I think this game overall had a turnover percentage north of 20. So between the two teams,
you can just talk to me, bro.
1 of every 5 possessions.
Footage of that last play before it happens of Plumlee and Grant communicating.
All right, yeah, let's see it. So, what's that? Plumlee tells him.
It looks like Grant tells him he wants help on LeBron.
All right, so let's see. What does he has? They just talked. Okay. But look at the thing to me is the gap in spacing. All right, yeah, he's going to go to right there, he's saying, and then we're going to swap right here. But, yeah, man. You know what?
Might be.
I even wonder if AD is seeing this and purposely not rubbing. It's not that he doesn't come off the rub. He goes wide on it almost to create the confusion. I don't know. I don't know, man. I mean, that's a tough one. It's crazy. You weren't here for the 09 series. It just reminds me so much of that.
Yeah, it sure felt
so
like
much
it.
Where you're like, are they really better? Are they really better? Doesn't Denver feel like at their best, and they tap into their best when it's needed, they can get there? And tonight it certainly felt like that. Gary Harris goes 1 of 3 tonight. Jokic 1 of 4 from the 3-point line. I thought he made the big one. I mean, he made all the big ones tonight. That tip-in shot, that rate.
That's a Hall of Fame.
If we were doing rate the highlight,
player.
That was 10 out of 10. Like, the spatial awareness to see that, and it was 100% intentional. He was trying just to give it a little pat. He got it perfectly. That was one of my favorite Jokic plays ever. I wish it was a game winner.
And the clutch 3. I mean, I was worried a little bit. He turned down that 3, and then he put up a really ugly-looking mid-ranger, and then comes down the next few possessions and is as clutch as can be. That tip-in play is a Tier 1 Hall of Famer. I mean, it's another winning play. I mean, it sucks so much.
Going forward, so another interesting sort of battle line. If you guys, by the way, if you're not DNVR members, I highly recommend it. I was really happy with how this last episode of the list turned out on 2 accounts. One was the Jokic fouls, and tonight that reversed. I thought Jokic, a lot of those little wrestling fouls, I explained why those happened and how the Lakers sort of forced Jokic into that. Again, I think they were bad calls, but I think the Lakers did a good job of putting the refs in a position to say, hey, Jokic does this thing, look what he does, and kind of suckering him into it. The other thing was about just how the Lakers are guarding the Nuggets, which I think is very interesting and kind of highlight. It gives me a little bit of a confidence because I do think Denver can get comfortable against that. So if you're not become a DNVR member, it's only like $5 a month. It's super cheap. You get a free T-shirt. It's basically like getting paying for a T-shirt. But another thing that I talked about on yesterday's show, the Notebook Edition, the Nuggets in Game 1 won the first quarter minutes when LeBron sat and Anthony Davis came in. And actually, LeBron goes early, and then he comes back in the final 2 minutes. So it's kind of a AD at center without LeBron, AD at center with LeBron. And the Nuggets won those minutes. They lost them tonight in the first quarter, and that's why they fell down by 10.
I completely agree. I mean, there's so many things you can look at as the difference, but that was the run where the Lakers offense was unstoppable. Get the Nuggets out of here if you're on Twitter. And it's like the Clippers series. Like, those bench minutes were so important. You have to win the non-LeBron minutes. And they did a good job, I think, of forcing AD to take the shots they want him to take. Yeah. Just credit to him for hitting a couple big ones. But, that run was the killer.
That run was a killer. Again, I thought they were a little bit more prepared for Dwight. It's tough because 0-2, I have a tremendous respect for this Lakers team. I just think I don't think it's like, this team's not good. Nuggets should have beat them. It's going to take an near perfect effort for the Nuggets to win a single game, let alone 4. So I have tremendous respect for how good they are. But there's a part of me that watches this game too, and I just think Denver had all those turnovers. They had so many opportunities. They had so many just wide open shots when they were right there at the door and just couldn't get them to go down. Are you more optimistic than you were that the Nuggets can hang?
Absolutely. I think you should feel that way. I mean, look, both teams are going to walk away from this game feeling like we made a lot of mistakes. The Lakers did too. They turned the ball over a lot. But I think if you're Michael Malone, you go back to that locker room and you're focused on what you guys did. Because if you clean up those unforced turnovers, if you hit your free throws, you win this basketball game. So the offensive rebounding and the turnovers, there's a couple of moments where you can just say, like, you gave them those opportunities. They didn't force them. They didn't take them from you. They didn't rip them from you. Lakers are the better team. But like last round, I very much think this team can hang. And it's a real bummer that they're a rim out away from like this looking just like that last series through 2 games.
1-1 would have just been so, I mean, that's when we hotbox and hot take this thing and start to get excited about it.
I mean, look, for the most part, there is some late help with Jokic and stuff, but for the most part, they are switching, and Jokic and Murray have mismatches.
Right.
I think the Nuggets need to do a little better job of getting it to Jokic quicker when he's got Caruso on him, and being a little more creative when he does get doubled. But for the most part, I actually think, like, if you were a Lakers fan, I don't know if you should feel super comfortable with their approach so far. I know it's 2 wins, but
man, this one really took it out of me, man.
Yeah,
it
man,
really
it's
did.
brutal.
It was a brutal
nothing
one.
short of brutal.
I was very proud of Jokic though tonight because I thought it was very clear just how frustrated he was with Dwight Howard in particular. And there was a moment in that second quarter where it looked like Dwight Howard was going to bully him again. And I thought Jokic looked pretty dejected. And the way he fought through that to get to a stat line of 30 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, 4 steals, by the way, to get to that stat line and just all that he had to fight through. And then it wasn't just that was a stat line. Like sometimes you could say, okay, well, it's a stat. Those stats were running through a wall not to lose this game. So I know it's weird to say at this point because I am handing out an orange slice here, but I felt like Jokic, this was an important step for him. You know what I mean? Like going up against somebody, just not getting the benefit of the doubt and then still being able to like pull through and be the best player on the court for the last 4 minutes of this game other than that last shot.
No doubt. Absolutely. And
I mean, AD went a little shaky down the stretch.
Think about there's one particular possession that I think represents really what you're trying to get at here. He went right at Anthony Davis when they needed 2 points fast. Went right at him. That's a matchup he's struggled with. And it was confident and it was easy. Yeah. And so I do think there is a little bit of a mental thing of like Jokic has needed to break through against this team. And maybe you can look at that as a breakthrough.
Well, it is funny because the Lakers have 3 guys they can send at him, right? They've got McGee, who's just out there to foul him and frustrate him. Dwight, who's more or less out there just to foul, rebound, and frustrate him. And then you got Anthony Davis, who's his equal. He's an incredible, talented player. Or as Lakers fans would say, his superior. The Nuggets don't have anybody that can guard Anthony Davis. They don't have anybody that can guard LeBron James, and that's a little bit of it. So the fact that they can get to this point, right at the door of this, is something. How do you think the Lakers react to this?
It's an interesting question.
They have to know that the Nuggets are a dangerous team.
You'd think, man, but there is a little bit, maybe some of that Clippers stuff. I mean, we saw that report about like Rajon Rondo and Markieff Morris and the way they were barking at guys and giving everyone a hard time. Dwight treating Jokic like he's a joke. Dozier missed those 2 free throws down the stretch, and on the Lakers bench, it looked an awful lot like Pat Beverly against Dame. Like just
they were barking.
Oh man, they were falling all over themselves. And I mean, look, they should feel confident, but I do think it would be a mistake on their part to overlook this Nuggets team after that run. Yeah. Maybe LeBron isn't, but I thought some of those guys looked like they think they had this done already.
Harrison, welcome to the show.
How's it going, guys?
It's been better.
It's been better, man. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. This is a real low. But I want to ask you, just before you kind of share with us what you heard from the people, I just kind of want to know what your experience was of this game.
This kind of felt like Game 5 against Utah and Game 5 against the Clippers, to the extent where like Denver found something and they just let it slip.
Game 4s against both, right?
Yeah. Game 4 when they went down 3-1 in each series. They found something tonight.
So Nuggets 6. Usually once you find something, it's over.
They found something tonight. The fourth quarter defense I thought was incredible, except for the last play. And they let one slip right through their grasp.
Yeah.
it's easy to focus on the last play, and obviously it was a breakdown. But I mean, the missed free throws, the first half turnovers, the transition points they just gave to the Lakers. That's what put them in that position. Like, Denver should have been leading for most of the second half instead of playing catch up.
They got the fast break points down here, at least according to NBA.com, to just 8. Now, I know that the way they measure those can sometimes be a little, they'll miss something here or there. But, I did think other than that first quarter, Denver started to kind of tighten up on that. And so maybe that is something that they've kind of figured out. You just want to comment before you get to those, because I kind of want to get your opinion, especially since there's only 3 of us tonight, just on Jokic's performance tonight. What was your perspective there?
I mean, Dwight Howard, he's had an impact in this series, no doubt.
Yeah.
I think he's been effective. He's been their best defender on Jokic. But, I mean, we saw in the fourth quarter him take over, He was great in the fourth. What do you have, 9 straight? 11 straight maybe?
11
with
straight
the tip-in?
fourth, yep.
And then the 3. So, like, he was quiet in the first half. I thought the Lakers did a good job on him, throwing doubles at him, like, on time, to kind of get his rhythm off. And there were a couple turnovers, but yeah, I feel like Dwight's done a good job on him. The Lakers have game planned well for him, I feel like.
Yeah. We'll talk in the final segment a little bit about going forward, because this Nuggets team, I'm just so proud. Like, it's weird to be so simultaneously low, like we are, but also like weirdly proud. Being proud of a sports team is also a weird feeling, because like I'm proud of my kids.
Right, because they're your children.
Because they're my children.
The basketball team.
And I feel like I have some hand in how they're being raised or whatever. But like, being proud of like grown men or that, that really don't, they're not really, exactly. It's a weird feeling. But I am like, it is the sense I have of this team is like, it really is David and Goliath in the series. And the fact that they just like are just so willing to just keep swinging. It really is to me. I don't know how, if you're a true Nuggets fan, I just don't know how you can't be proud of that.
Yeah, it is David versus Goliath, and when David's going up against Goliath, David like has to be almost perfect.
Yeah.
And just too many mistakes tonight, and like I said, that felt like it put them, behind for that second half and trying to get back into it.
This does feel a little like if Arya missed with the Knife King and then with the Night King and the knife, like, it just feels that was their chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so Harrison, I'm real curious how Malone was on this. I mean, he wears his emotion on his sleeve. And I don't think that this is an anger. I don't feel anger other than just at, like, the universe. But, like, it's just really more just dejected. I mean, would you say Malone felt dejected
I'd say
tonight?
dejected is a good way to describe it. He was pretty short and sweet. I mean, there wasn't a lot to say. I mean, unless you're going to, like, break down that last possession sequence.
I'm sure he was in quite the mood to break it down, but I'm sure he was asked about it.
Yeah, he was asked about it. He said he'd have to go back and look at the film. Players were asked about it, too. Jokic and Michael Porter Jr., they both just said kind of a breakdown in communication.
Michael Porter Jr. talked?
Yeah, well,
why the hell would they roll him out tonight of all nights?
Michael Porter Jr. and Jokic talked. We didn't hear from Jamal or anyone else.
How was Jokic?
I'd say similar to Malone, dejected, frustrated, kind of like drained. I'd say drained is like a good word for it after a game like that. So yeah, MPJ said they had a defensive breakdown. The communication has to be better. I'm sure you guys have talked about it, but like, what did you think happened on the last play?
Well, Mason Plumlee clearly was anticipating a switch, but there was no need for. There just was no.
There wasn't a screen really.
There wasn't, but it wasn't even a need for it. Like even the idea, and this is why I hate when you're playing basketball in those moments. I hate the idea of switch everything, guys, because if I hear another team saying that, I'm gonna slip a screen. I'm gonna fake set a screen and slip it because people will think there's a handoff there, and there's not. That's the way you do it. Anthony Davis, I don't know if he heard that or what it was. He just didn't go for the screen, and it created that amount of confusion, whether intentionally or not. But switch everything to me is you still have to call it out. There still has to be a contact. It still has to be a screen or something like this. And that one was so far away from being a screen that I don't know how Plumlee in his mind could have thought that Grant would understand that moment was for him to slip out.
Yeah.
That's the part to me that's so confusing.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Jokic said he thought they played well for most of the game. He said, quote, "We had the fight. We're going to
They
keep
did
our
have the
heads
fight.
up
There's just
and
no
on to the next
question."
one." Yeah, they did have the fight.
I mean, there's just
They did
like
have the
so
fight.
many challenges this team is rising up to time and time again. And this counts, by the way. I know it's not a result, but they rose to this occasion. And you're right, like through all the bitterness and dejectedness, like pride is shining through a little bit. I mean, that's a
Oh, totally. And it's just what it takes. I mean, you know, I've always like if the Nuggets ever won a championship, part of me thinks it is going to have to go through the Lakers. Like you have
Destiny
to slate,
at
you
this
have
point,
to,
yeah.
like whatever. But it also is going to have to be the hardest possible championship you could ever possibly imagine. And
well, hey, maybe 2-0 is how you set that table, brother.
what else was Malone asked about? What else did he talk about?
I mean,
PJ Dozier. Did he mention PJ Dozier?
He mentioned Dozier. He didn't really go into detail. Yoke had a good one on Dozier. I asked him about it. He said, like I kind of phrased the question in a way to say, like, yes, the missed free throws hurt, but he did a lot of other good stuff. And Yoke said, like, he took 2 charges. Like,
oh yeah.
I
almost
forgot
forgot
the charges
me
for
too.
a second. Those were 2 big charges,
Huge.
man.
And they were great play. They were. This is what I like about Dozier as opposed to a Torrey Craig, because I think Torrey Craig is the Plumlee of guards, right? Like he makes a lot of mistakes. He just plays hard, and sometimes it really pays off for you. But a Dozier player is more like a Millsap. He's always just like seeing the court a little defensively a little bit ahead of everybody else, and he did this when he played good minutes. You know, like January or whenever everybody was hurt, he was doing this a lot. He was making defensive plays, rotating over. So I don't know that that's a one-off from PJ Dozier. I think he's a Rajon Rondo type player.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 14 minutes for Dozier, finished a +1 with the missed free throws. This was also funny from Yoke on Dozier. He says Dozier like warms up before him, I think before games, and Yoke says like he always watches Dozier warm up and like notices him putting in the work, notices how he takes coaching, and just kind of sees him developing like right before his eyes. I thought that's
really cool, and I
also
love hearing that from Jokic.
Yeah, so it seems like
very
Dozier
big.
has the Yoke stamp of approval.
Wow, the Yoke
AC's had
stamp
it, I
of
think.
approval.
And aren't we a couple free throws away from lauding Michael Malone for a brilliant substitution too?
Well, I laud him anyway.
Sure.
I'll laud him anyway. I'll laud him anyway.
I mean, you got to look at it as a good move regardless,
Definitely.
right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And maybe Dozier needed this, man. Like, you know, like this is the tough thing. Like people sometimes ask me about put Bull, and I always think, guys, you really want a player's first welcome into the NBA to be go guard LeBron James or go like risk getting poster out. Like some of it's unfair to those players. Dozier has at least been around a little bit. He's got some experience. You put him in that moment, and you hope that those missed free throws don't. And I don't think they will. He played so well in other areas, but you know, with young players, that's what you worry about.
Yeah. So that's really all from the pressers. It was short and sweet.
Who else spoke? Michael Porter. What did he have to say? So Michael Porter got pulled out. I thought a questionable decision from Malone when he pulled him out and didn't get back into this game.
Right.
You know, Jokic, of course, goes nuclear down the stretch. So they
6 of 9 from Porter, 2 of 4 from 3, 15 points, 4 rebounds.
There is a part of me, and I don't want to move into the offseason just yet, but there is a part of me that goes, this is probably Denver's team next year. Same guys. Michael Porter scores 15 points on it just because he goes out there and jacks up 9 shots. Like, I don't know. This team's really good. And if they can find a way to, like, make him into a piece, I just don't think it's going to happen this year, but if they can find a way to make him into a piece.
Yeah.
How high can Denver go?
You should be feeling that way. You should be.
Yeah. But, I mean, not trying to look ahead to next season, but in the regular season, that's a mistake you don't get pulled for. In, like, a regular season game, I don't think.
It's true.
Playoff game is probably a little different.
You just have to, I mean, I don't know. You just when he's out there, good things happen more often than not. And when good things are happening, I just don't understand the math in putting him in jail for the one mistake. But
Yoke also said on the Anthony Davis 3, he knew it was going in right when Anthony Davis shot it. It was just pure. It was pretty pure.
Yeah, I knew it.
And he said they obviously knew it was going to either LeBron or AD. So not a big surprise that AD got the shot.
What a shot, man. I hate to.
It was a good shot. It was wide open. I mean, it was wide open. What the hell, Mason Plumlee? Jesus. What'd you learn at Duke? It was crazy. It was insane. Looking ahead now to Game 3, I like that at the end of that press conference, Nikola Jokic said, on to the next one or whatever, because I thought Jokic it's funny how different we are. Like, whenever we talk about sports, we really reflect a lot of our own character, right? And there's a lot of times, including when the Nuggets were down 3-1 in Utah, where I was just like, you know, like what, just distraught. There's no way they come back. And I remember Jokic being like, I mean, we're not trying to win. We're just trying to. It was just very nonchalant. Like, you guys, you are thinking about that. We're just thinking about how can we win one game. And there's a sense of this with Denver, and I think with Jokic too, of like, sucks, man. Now we have to beat the Lakers 5 times because we kind of beat them tonight almost. Now you got to beat them another time. And if you step back the emotional aspect of it, if you step back the odds, never tell me the odds, you just look at it and go, Nuggets got a really bad whistle in the first half, in my opinion. Really bad whistle, and the wheels fell off in game 1. But they were with them in the first quarter when the things were the same.
I agree.
They had a really bad moment in this game. Like what was the stretch? If you pull up the game flow there, it was a short stretch where the Lakers opened up a huge lead.
Yeah.
Nuggets bounced back. Nuggets battled back and
in like non-Jokic minutes, they started that run.
Just in if you look at the actual game flow, the slope is pretty steady. It was just over the whole course of the second half that the Nuggets chipped away at that lead and kind of outplayed them. And I don't know. There is at least another perspective of this that is, the Nuggets look like they can hang with them.
I mean, first of all, not over yet.
Of course,
no
only halfway at best.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's over until the buzzer sounds.
Yeah, until the Lakers have
the elimination
for
game
sure
with these guys.
But also, man, like whether or not they missed their chance to really like swing this series tonight, they can run with these guys. They can hang with these guys, and they shot themselves in the foot about 19 times tonight. They were right there at the end. Yeah. So, we'll see.
That's what they got to tell themselves. They got to tell themselves, we should have won this game. On to game 3. Let's do what we did. I mean, I thought they defended Anthony Davis better tonight. Anthony Davis had 31. It was a tough 31, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought
LeBron had 26. I was not impressed with LeBron's game at all, especially in the fourth. So they did a lot of good things tonight. They were right there. They had a good game plan. I feel like they're still going to have confidence heading into game 3.
We haven't talked much about Jamal Murray, but I thought this was like a hard-fought, 25 points from him. I'm like, he earned them. 19 shot attempts. He goes 8 of 19. He did have the 5 turnovers, but I just thought that he made a lot of winning plays all around the court, offense and defense, down the stretch there.
Yeah. And I feel like every point he gets this series is going to be hard fought because those Laker defenders like Caruso, KCP, Danny Green, like they're going to hang with them around screens and stuff. They're pesky. So it's a battle for him to get off every open look, but I agree with you. I thought he played well tonight. I thought he played well enough. It was a gutsy performance.
I think he's maybe the guy, like individually, I'm like hurting for the most right now because we said it earlier. That was a winning defensive play. That was a big time play.
Yeah.
The block, yeah, man. Great contest, great block. I mean, he's like an angle, a fingertip graze away from winning that game for his team.
Yeah. The offensive rebounds I thought were also big too, especially in the first half. Like a lot of those mistakes were in the first half and they cut down on them in the second half when they got back into it. But then that big offensive rebound on the last possession there.
Yeah. Look, man, this was a game I feel proud for this team. I feel all of those things, but it just comes with like an ultimate punch to the nuts. That's just hard to swallow. But do you guys have anything else before we get out of here? One thing I think about, and maybe we can go here for just a brief second. The Lakers have an interesting rotation. It's their regular rotation. It's how they rotated all through. But Dwight doesn't come in until the second quarter. He doesn't really come in until like 8 minutes are left in the second quarter. The LeBron goes to the bench early, around 7 minutes into the first quarter. Then he comes back. He sits for a few. Then he comes back. Do you think the Nuggets are in line to drastically change their rotation in any way to try to maybe negate some of the lineups that are giving them a hard time?
It's tough to say. I mean, the Dozier factor. Like, is Dozier now a 15 to 20 minute guy next game?
I would love to see Dozier in the game during that
when
stretch
LeBron's in the game.
I do like when LeBron's in the game, but I would just like to see him on the court on some of those lineups where you go a little bit smaller. And the reason for that is I just think if you can give Jokic as many playmakers as possible, that works. Like if you get Michael Porter Jr. at power forward, and there's some lineups that the Nuggets are allowed to do that. If you get that, put Dozier on the court with him and let them run pick and roll together. I'd love to see it.
And you're not necessarily sacrificing your defensive length or prowess with that sub. So
yeah.
And that's one of the biggest. Like Torrey Craig, I think, has found a way to be impactful by cutting and doing all these things, but it's not even necessarily the jump shooting. It's that he can't handle the ball. It's not another guy they can turn to.
Lakers missed some things too tonight. I mean, this wasn't like the Lakers played their best game and the Nuggets just almost did it. Like the Lakers played a game similar to what Denver did in that first half. Like it was sloppy. There were a lot of mistakes. So they have some things they're going to be able to clean up as well. Sure. It's only going to get tougher, I think, for Denver. But brutal. We're in this together, Nuggets fans.
Absolutely.
We really are. Like this is it. Like We said this is what we signed up for because we take pride in this team for how tough and how strong their jaw is. They're just able to take haymaker after haymaker.
Yeah.
It's the same of Nuggets fans, and that's this is what it is, man. Like it's just. There's that great line in my favorite movie, No Country for Old Men, where he's kind of talking about how effed up the world is, and he says, it's hard in life to look at it in all of its entirety and say, yes, I want to be a part of this. Because he's seeing the worst. He's talking about the worst of humanity, and that's what being a Nuggets fan is being through these moments and saying, you know what though, it's me. I want in.
Maybe they're just setting us up for the hardest path, guys.
And this series, guys, this series in the long run, win or lose, is going to be huge for this team. Yeah. It could have a game 82 impact where, after Denver lost that game, of course, they were all right, we need to change some things. We need to all be here over the summer. We need to take defense seriously for once. I feel like a series against the Lakers, a series against LeBron and Anthony Davis could have ramifications for this team down the line.
And it could, but at the same time, I also feel and I felt like this last year, they had the Warriors staring at them should they get to the conference finals. This Lakers team is really good. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. There's always going to be they're not, in my opinion, especially great. Meaning, I think they're probably title favorites, but if you put them up against every title winner of the last 10 years, they're in the bottom half. They're probably in the bottom half. In my opinion, that's not taken away from them. I'm just saying this year, I think the Lakers are better next year. The Clippers are probably better next year. There's just an opportunity in front of Denver, and to get this close and say, hey, man, just win the margins just a little bit more, you can maybe put yourself in position.
Historically, going down 2-0 in conference finals, you lose 89% of the time. But this is not that. This is the first ever bubble. Yeah. And the Nuggets are coming off 2 3-1 comebacks, and the Boston Celtics just won Game 3 after going down 2-0. So, I mean, yeah, you don't write them off. Yeah, you don't write them off.
You can't.
All right, guys, I'll be back again tomorrow with a notebook episode. I'm actually thinking about doing the list live. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. We'll see about that. It could be a fun thing.
I'm here for that.
But I'll do a notebook episode again tomorrow, and then we're going to be back here Tuesday. The Never Say Die Nuggets have a foot in the grave. One foot in the grave.
Just where they want to be.
Just where they would. They got them right where they want them, baby. Yeah. We'll see everybody next time.